of Dr. K. N. Modi Foundation, Professor Dr. D. K. Modi sir, our chief mentor, Professor Dr. R. K. Khandal sir, our expert panelist, Mr. Prashant Sharma, DGM GAIL India Limited, our alumni guest, HR consultant, Ms. Dr. Neha Paliwal, all our faculty members, students, staff, eminent personalities as a member of audience. We welcome you all in this prestigious webinar of CMD on leadership during turbulent times. In light of current situation, what is being most discussed is the leader, and we have also seen that leaders' actions and decisions are subjected to serious evaluations nowadays, be it global leader, national leader, prime minister, president, chief minister, state leaders, be at district level, district magistrate, organizational leaders, business leaders. Everywhere people are discussing. A lot of comparisons are being made. So it's a time when everything related to leaders are being examined. And obviously, this is the time when the leaders too are under tremendous pressure, thinking about how to come out of this crisis, a critical situation that we are facing today. And we feel that this is the time when we could say that it is the acid test where all knowledge, abilities, and skills of leaders are being put to examination. See, leaders are just like captain of the ship who are striving hard to reach the shore with while against the streams of turbulent times, and at the same time they had to ensure that all the members on board are to be safe and secure. So I do feel that the topic of a webinar, leadership during turbulent times, is very apt to the situation which we are facing today. And while keeping these leadership challenges in mind, we have set the objective of this webinar as what the leadership is all about, the pros and cons of being a leader, the important traits, attributes, behavior related to different situations that require by leaders to display, and at the same time, with a very specific to the situation, we'll be discussing what are the leadership challenges being faced by leader during present times. So before starting with this webinar, going ahead with this webinar, I would like to explain the format which we are going to follow. We have 5 student presenters who will be discussing on various aspects of leadership. After each presentation, an extended remark might be given by the faculty, and which will be followed by some thought-provoking questions which will be taken up by our eminent expert. I am going to introduce my expert panelists. We have with us Mr. Prashant Sharma, who happens to be DGM GAIL India Limited.
Good evening.
Good evening. Welcome, sir. See, GAIL India Limited is now Maharatna company, public sector enterprise, and it has been elevated to this position. Earlier, it was Navratna. Maharatna is a special position given to very few public sector enterprise, was with one of the criteria that all public sector enterprises, those public sector enterprises which have average annual turnover of 20,000 crore for 3 consecutive years. Mr. Prashant Sharma is an MBA from Gorakhpur University, and is also a law graduate from Delhi University. He too started his career in academics. Later on, joined National Fertilizers Limited, and for more than 20 years, he is working with GAIL India Limited. Our another panelist is Dr. Neha Paliwal Sharma. Neha
Good
is
afternoon, everybody.
welcome, Neha. Neha is our alumni as well. She is a pass out. Rather, she is a gold medalist of batch 2006-8. She is a HR consultant now, and she also do a lot of freelance services like academic writing, research consulting, book review for international and national agencies. Internationally, she has client in USA, Hungary, and UAE. Welcome, Neha.
Thank you, sir.
Then see the leadership in organizational context. If you see that we all managers, we are provided with positional powers to get things done and achieve objective. These positional powers are mainly in context with the reward and punitive measures that we can adopt for getting things done by people. But it has been found that positional powers, authorities, reward and coercive powers does not have long-lasting effect on people's performance unless and until there is willing support of people. And in order to gain this willing support, a manager must have the leadership quality. That's why when we define leadership, we say we mean that leadership is a process through which a leader influences behavior of the follower by winning his willing support in order to achieve organizational objective. So the willing support is always important, and it is the willing support that helps a manager and the team to achieve the objective whatever has been set for. So with this, I would request my first presenter, Ms. Nikita Batra, to express her views on conceptual framework of leadership. Nikita, over to you, Nikita, please.
Thank you so much, sir. Good afternoon, one and all present here. Myself, Nikita Batra, and I'm going to talk about or explain the conceptual framework of leadership. Let us know what is the meaning of the leadership. Leadership is an ability of an individual to influence and guide others to follow the correct path. Or in other words, we can say leadership is an art of motivating others, to follow a correct path or to work towards a common goal. So let us see leadership, how leadership is said to be as a partnership. The most effective leaders are the ones who partner with their staff. It is always said that leadership is a partnership. But the question is how it is said that. How is leadership is a partnership? It is a famous line that leadership is not something you do to people. It's something you do with people. Generally in an organization, their workforce is of diverse nature. That means people, employees are from different culture, different religion, and they have a different kind of a thought process. They have different kind of a situation handling. They handle the situation in various types. So it is important to know how leaders handle these different kinds of employees and how they deal with them. The more Okay, so now the main issue is partnership starts with clear and frequent communication between the two parties. And here leadership also involves the constant discussions between the leader and their followers. Constant here means the continual discussions. It's not like that having a once in a while or once in a year discussions. No, it's like on a continual basis, on a perfect time break. It's like after a month or after a daily basis, you can say a weekly basis, monthly or monthly. That it goes. Now, the second point is partnership is purely based on honesty, and it is said to be as a long-term relationship. Whereas leadership is also have the same base, because the true honesty, because honesty is the basic strength or the basic step for every relationship. And leadership is also a kind of a relationship between leader and the follower. And also leadership and also the relationship between leader and a follower is a very long term relationship. Now let us see the basic differences or difference between leadership and management. How leadership and management are both different terms, and how they are different. So I want to quote some points regarding these differences. Now, my first point is management is generally found in the formal kind of organization the where the everyone works formally. There is no informal communication involved. So, and whereas leadership can be found everywhere. Everywhere means in any kind of a situation, in any kind of organization. It is not basic. It is not purely based, or it is not only found in informal organization. It can be found in formal organizations, and it can also be found in every kind of a situation. Now, my second point is in management, the only relationship which we found is the superior subordinate relations. It's like not having any kind of other kind of a relationship. It's only the pure subordinate and superior relationships. Whereas in leadership, there is no kind of relationship like leader and follower. There is no upper management or lower management. It's a purely leader. As a leader, you have to judge everyone equally. You don't have to judge anybody below yourself or above yourself. It's like that. In leadership, there is no subordinate or a superior subordinate relationship. They go hand in hand. Now, my third point is managers have the influencing power by their positional authority. Because managers are the superiors, so they have some kind of a positional authority with them. Because of that, they can influence others to follow the rules and the regulations and also follow their orders. Whereas leadership does not involve these influencing powers. It has the willingness to follow the orders given by the leaders, and the followers under that leader wants to follow that rules. It's not like influencing or pressurizing them. It goes. And the last point which I want to quote is that if we are going in a project in management, if a manager has done a project and then if it gives a negative response or a positive response, it can be any. So manager is unaccountable. He is answerable for that. He has to give the answers to the upper management of that situation. But in the leadership, the leader is not answerable for any kind of a situation. He is not answerable for any kind of a results. He is not accountable for that. So these were the some kinds of points. Now let us see the situations where leadership doesn't matter. There are mainly two kinds of situations. First is leadership substitute, and the second one is leadership irrelevance. First goes with leadership substitute. Leadership substitute here means that that the employees are are the you can say are highly skilled and highly motivated, that they can work according to themselves only. They don't need any kind of a leader or a superior to support them, to guide them, to give them assistance for any kind of a thing. They can organize their work according to them only. They can divide the work among themselves with themselves only. So there is no use or no kind of a leader needed for that. And in these kind of situations, there is a leadership substitute. And in these situations, leadership doesn't matter. And the second one is leadership irrelevance. Irrelevance here means the situations where the leadership doesn't have any kind of a power, or he cannot change anything. These situations are not controllable. These are kind of external situations which are not controlled by any one of us. Like, for example, if a company is working on a taste of preferences of their customers, so in that case, leaders doesn't have the any control on the taste and preferences of the customers. It is purely based on the customers. So in this kind of a cases, leadership doesn't matter. So, and my last point is attribution theory of a leadership. Changes if we change in the leader, it is always said that if we change in a kind of a leadership style or a trait, then it will result in the change in the performance of the organization. But here the attribution theory also says that the external forces or the other members, how other members can influence us. It's like other members also judge the leaders of the organizations, how they are working and how the organization works. Like, let's see a small example to get to it. So the example would be, if there is a cricket match going on between an Indian team or any other team. So in that case, if India wins, then then others' point of view will be of two types. The first one is other will say that the leader doesn't play any role. It is only a team effort that they got to win. If the captain is Dhoni or Virat Kohli is or anybody, then they will say the captain doesn't do anything. The team is the only one who does everything. But in the second situation, in the contrary, other people will say no. The leader was also very effective. If that leader would not be there, if Dhoni or Virat Kohli would not be there, then they can't. Then the team will can't play with the team spirit they are playing with or with the same enthusiasm. So in attribution theory, we got to know that how a leader is judged by the others' perspective and the others' perspective and others' attributions. So that's all from my side. And now over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikita. The two concepts here discussed were leadership substitute and leadership irrelevance. Normally, these two situations, they describe about two types of situation. When we say that a leader is not credited with the success of the team. Substitute happens when we find that leader is blessed with a very close-knit team who are well-developed and capable of performance. Then when the team wins, normally credit goes to team rather than leader. We call this as a leadership substitute. And leadership sometimes becomes irrelevant when, suppose if in a booming economy, business leader is making good profit. Then again, a leader will not be credited because it is the economy itself is booming and it is natural to make good. Everything is good. Then success is not attributed to a leader. So attribution is very important in leadership. See how you see the success of the team, whether you give credit to leader or the team, or to some external factors, right? And one of the very important dimension here was discussed is that a good leader is one who develops his follower into leadership roles. And it is very important for every leader that they should support their subordinates to become leader. Normally, there is a query for you, sir, Prashant sir. If we go by the investment expenditure of the organizations,
Yes.
Sir, if we go by the investment expenditures of the organization
Exactly.
on leadership development programs, then what happens? We normally see that organizations are making more spending for leadership development program of top leaders, strategic leader, and somewhere they are ignoring frontline leaders, those leaders who are dealing with frontline executives.
Yeah.
The investment seems to be very low. My question is, do you feel that can organization ignore frontline leaders or lower level leaders? Are they not so important? Or what should be the investment criteria on leadership development at different hierarchical level? Sir, do you please?
Thank you, Dr. Roy. And firstly, before I actually respond to this, question of yours, let me congratulate the entire team, the top management team of CMD, and Dr. Roy, your team, for choosing such a very, very apt subject. In fact, this is the subject that is leadership during turbulent times, I think it is the best subject which we can have in the present times, the present COVID-19 times. As you rightly said, this is the testing times for all the leaders. And dear students, I think you are very lucky, you're fortunate to, have been studying the leadership theories and management theories at this point of time, when you'll see the actual implementation of it happening in a very, very, in a very, very live way. Day to day things are happening, they are changing like anything. And whatever we had learned in management, it is coming to real practice before the entire world, every day. I'll just I'll say like leadership is best displayed during these times itself. I'll give you just few examples before I come to the actual answer of the question which Dr. Roy had raised. We have examples, so many examples, live examples going on these days. We have the examples of Ola, we have the examples of Uber, who are simply laying down the employees because they have so much of pressures, they have so much of global pressures, they have so much of business restructuring which is going on in the organization, and they are, feeling a lot of, helplessness. They are feeling helpless. They're laying down their employees, they're cutting down on costs, they are cutting down on employee strength, wages, everything. Okay. Then also we have examples of, on the other side, we have examples. I was just reading Asian Paints. This is one of the organizations which is rather succumbing to the pressures of COVID-19. They are actually going on to enhance the, the salaries and the wages, and they're giving bonus to the employees. So that is also one of the ways in which organizations are responding. We saw Reliance during these 1.5 months. They have been able to secure the biggest chunk of their foreign investments from Facebook, from Atlantic, and so many good companies. They have been able to do it. So this is just actually depends how we react, or rather how we respond to the situations. And this response comes from the leaders. So it's a live display, students. It's a live display of leaders, different styles of leaderships, which is happening before our eyes in the last 1.5 months, 2 months. You have seen leaders, how they're responding to the situation. Few are succumbing down to the pressures. Few are just sailing through. They're sailing through the waves and getting even better than what they were in the past. That is one point which I actually wanted to mention before I wanted to come to the question. Dr. Roy, yes, you're rightly saying that, organizations, they do have a tendency to spend considerable amount of money and time helping, the top management, because that is, they think that, this is what the strategic decision-making body is in an organization. But yes, it is very true. If any organization which has to see a future perspective, they have to see the long-term perspective of the organization. They have to necessarily focus on the first level supervisors. That is the bottom level executives, the fresh entrants, that is the new executives which are going to run the organization, not only in the present times, but also in the future times. Now, investment in helping first level supervisors becoming good leaders has an enormous payoffs also. The first level leaders, definitely they are the ones who are actually directly interacting with entry level workers, who in turn interact with the customers. But they are also the ones who are actually interacting with the shop level employees, the contract workers, the contractors, and their actions and their decisions actually impact the morale, the motivation of these, I'll say, workers or non-executives in like what we call in other organizations. So it is very important that they have to be, given that leadership training, due leadership training, due emphasis has to be given on their skill development, so that they can interact this major chunk of, they can interact well with this major chunk of customers and employees. Now, these are the employees who actually need to be, they are imbibing the culture of the organization also. If you're not giving due emphasis to them, they will not be in a position to give, to take that culture which they should have. And this is what they are going to, this is how they're going to drive the organization in the coming times. So the top management has to think that way, and they have to give the emphasis more on the entry level officers or the first level supervisors, so that they can in turn, develop the business well, and in the future run also they can carry out the business. This is what I think, Dr. Roy.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for the insight that you have given to us regarding what is happening in the corporate world right now and how leadership are handling this situation.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir, once again. See, now we move on to the next aspect of leadership is possession of traits. See, traits are predisposed characteristics, we mean. And it is there is a trait theory which says that only those people are capable of becoming a leader who possess a particular set of traits, right? So, and this theory is also called as a great man theory, because they are, if you possess certain categories of trait, then you will be treated as a great man. You can become great man only if you have these trait, right? So the trait are one of the very important criteria for distinguishing leaders and non-leaders. Now I'll request our second presenter, Ms. Shivanshi Singh, to present on trait theory of leadership traits.
Thank you so much, sir. A very good afternoon to all of you, to all the faculties and my batchmates. So today I'm going to give some information and illustrate the traits. The traits are basically the personally distinguished characteristics of employees or leaders in an organization. And the personality traits are those traits when we try to make a combination of these traits, then those are known as personality traits. Traits can be distinguished into two categories, that is general personality traits and task related personality traits. General personality traits are those traits which are mandatory for every employee to inherit to run an organization and to get the task done from the employees. These are some of the general personality traits, though there are many, but I have briefed out some of the general personality traits. So I will briefly illustrate these. These are communication, integrity, resilience, vision, influence, delegation. Communication is very important in any organization. If we ask, if we try to, if we see from the top level to the lower level management, if the information is not directed and is not in the proper flow to any of the level of the management, then it becomes very difficult to perform the work. So a good communication is very much important for the proper running of any organization. Now integrity. Integrity is basically doing the right thing when no one is watching. Suppose if we do the charity or if we do the poverty and we make the ad out of it, then it is not, we are not doing it in the right way. The same is with the integrity. If we do good for any person in an organization or for anyone in our organization, then we have to see that we should be humble and polite even if no one is watching. We should not do it for our praise, like appreciating others, giving performance rewards, etc. Now resilience. Resilience is basically how we stand in the tough times. When the odds are not in our favor, then how we roll up our sleeves to tackle the situation. And no, we can say that yeah, I am here to tackle every situation, because as we are leader, we should not perform as boss, because this is the quality only leaders can have, not a boss can possess and work with this quality. Vision is the foresightedness of any organization to see far through about what are the shortcomings, what measures should be taken, how it should be performed, and what are the deviations that they have to work on it. Influence is basically the process of how we can influence or make our things more clear to other people, or we can negotiate to come on a particular point so that we can it can benefit both the employees and firm or organizational goal. Delegation here basically means the decentralization of power, because if we decentralize the power of organization, because if it is in only leader's hand, then it will somehow become not it will not be beneficial for all of the organization. So it is basically delegating. It means that giving proper duties to other employees of an organization. Now the second is task related personality traits. Task-related personality traits includes assertiveness, flexibility, locus of control, intelligence, extroversion, and decisiveness. Personality traits are those traits that different leaders possess different personality traits, because every individual is different. And suppose if I have assertiveness, then I may be lacking locus of control and extroversion. I may not have this. So every leader have different personality traits. The assertiveness is basically how we can speak for the right thing, which are wrong to us or for other, without being rude, without letting anyone get like I am insulting him or I am doing wrong thing. It is basically that is taking a stand for ourselves in a calm, humble, and positive way. Locus of control. Locus of control is of two types. That is internal and external. It means one who believe in fate and destiny, one who believe in himself. So locus of control is how we manage things so that we can come on a conclusion that how it should be done and what are the measures that should be taken and how it should be controlled earlier so that it does not come out as a uh, target that is not achievable. Intelligence, as you all know, it is necessary in every step of every purpose of life. But here in intelligence include knowledge, because in an organization, if we have only knowledge and intelligence to know how we should treat others, how we should educate them, and what steps are to be taken, then only we can take the proper steps and proper decision at the right time, at the right situation, or even in the wrong and tough situation. Extroversion is basically taken from the extrovert. So extroversion is are people who are kind of extrovert in an organization, and they don't have quality like introvert have. They are quite communicable, they are flexible, they are easily adaptable to the changes that people are having, and they can communicate better if we compare them with introvert people. So these people are very important in an organization because they take major decisions of any organization, and they keep it very simple and very correct delegation of information and authority. Decisiveness is, as we can get from the word, that taking right decisions in the very tough situation. It is one of the most important traits of leader, because if a single situation get taken is become strong, then whole of the steps that gradually are taken to for a particular goal that may seem difficult to achieve. Thank you. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Shivanshi. See, though trait theory seems to be very simple and at the same time is capable of distinguishing leader and non-leader, and a lot of leadership programs have been developed around traits of a leader. But there are several accounts on which this trait theory is criticized. One of the main point of criticism is that trait theory does not provide any universal set of traits. Different researchers have given different combination of traits for successful leaders in their own way. There is no universally accepted set of traits. And another is very important, it is very difficult to measure trait. We don't know that how much of trait one is required to be an effective leader, or whether a particular trait will always help him in leadership situation or not. And another criticism of leader trait comes from the contingent theorists, is that trait does not take into account the various environmental factors that affects the leader's effectiveness or performance. So there are certain criticism of the trait theory as well. In case of trait theory, see, Prashant sir, if you agree with me, that there are certain traits which are which are considered to be sacrosanct. If you don't possess this trait, you cannot be a good leader. See, those traits. One of the trait is extroversion. Suppose this trait means we believe that if you are extrovert, then obviously you are capable of playing a leadership role. And if you are not extrovert, then obviously you cannot be a good leader. Likewise, traits such as assertiveness, this is also having halo effect sort of thing. My question is, sir, is it always necessary to be extrovert, or can you enumerate, is there any situation or type of leadership setting when a person can be effective as a leader without being extrovert, sir?
Yeah. Dr. Rai, yeah, that's a very, very interesting question. And the way, in fact, Shivanshi was explaining, what she told us that assertive, the other word, the assertive means when a person is calm, humble, and positive. And extrovert, she explained that a person is communicable and is adaptable. Now, these are the qualities, in fact, which are required every time, and, any good leader will not be able to, perform without these qualities. But yes, there are some situations where actually these qualities may not be required. Like in our own old learnings, we have learned that Sam, Dam, Dand, Bhed. Matlab, we have to manage our workforce not with in a very, there's no formula driven approach. This is a set formula and you have to deliver, you have to manage your people in this set formula itself. These formulas, they don't work, when they don't work often in the factory setup or in the office setup. So this is why they say Sam, Dam, Dand, Bhed. सबके लिए अलग अलग तरीका है. सबको आपको कब साम यूज करना है, कब आपको डिफरेंशिएट करना है, कब आपको मॉनिटरी उसको लालच देना है, कब उसको आपको थोड़ा सा फेयर दिखाना है, कब आप उसको एक डिफरेंशिएट करके या उसको एक्सप्लेन करके, लॉजिकली एक्सप्लेन करके बता सकते हैं. सो दीज आर डिफरेंट स्टाइल्स इन विच लीडर्स दे परफॉर्म. Yes, I have noticed in my organization that wherever this when the person is required to deal with technically oriented jobs, these are the situations where actually lot much of assertiveness or extroversion is not required at all, because these are the teams where you have a lot of knowledge workers. And when you are handling the knowledge workers, then possibly you don't need to be very assertive. Neither you need to be very extrovert, because these people, they know what they are doing. And these people, they also know how to do it in the best possible way. Like we had those ERP teams in our organization. This is Enterprise Resource Planning team, SAP teams, where, I'm just talking about almost 10, 12 years back, when in my organization, SAP was being launched and it was being implemented. That was a time when the old leaders actually were not knowing, to be honest, they were not knowing about the entire procedural, way how to carry on the SAP implementation in the organization. And on the other side, we had those implementation partners who were very young. They were all young, dynamic, IT professionals, ERP professionals, and they knew how to, carry on their work. What they actually required from us was a given framework, a design of our processes, how we carry our processes, and the overall the framework. This is what actually they were requiring. And when we were in a position to give them this setup, they were efficiently doing their jobs without much of intervention. So one thing where I can notice where you actually don't need to be very assertive, you need to give a free hand to these knowledge workers, so that they can execute their jobs properly. What we need to do is that as leaders, as senior leaders, is just to give them a direction that this is your framework and this is where you have to go. And then you have to give them complete liberty to execute their job. Then like smart, we have smart subordinates also, who are capable and willing to take challenges, execute with perfection, and also they have the desire to value add to the process. When you have these type of team members, possibly a leader doesn't need to be assertive at all. What he or she needs to give to give these subordinates a time frame and the desired result, deliverables, what we want. Then I don't think we need to be very assertive and extrovert in these types of situations. Dr. Roy.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the input on trait. And I hope that the insight that you have shared with us is really worth seeking. Now, moving on to see the deficiencies of trait. theory or trait approach had led the researchers to search for other approaches or focus their attention on behavioral approach. Behavioral approach is mainly it focuses on what the leaders are rather than what the leaders do rather than as in trait approach what the leaders are. And in this approach, they study about effective leadership behavior, means how the leader behave in order to influence the behavior of the subordinate. So normally what happens that leaders draw a pattern of behavior while dealing with his subordinate. And when these patterns are well established, when he starts behaving in the same fashion, given similar situation while dealing with his subordinate, it is termed as their style. So we call it a leadership style. And I will request our third presenter, Ms. Akshara Gupta, to share her views on leadership style. Thank you. Over to Akshara.
Thank you so much, sir. A very good afternoon to all. Today I'm going to present my topic, that is leadership style and the manager grid theory. Okay, let's see what about the leadership style say. A leadership style is a leader method of providing direction, implementing plans, and motivating peoples. In other terms, it is also called refers to as a leadership characteristics when directing, motivating, guiding, and managing group of peoples. In this, there are the three types of leadership style that are autocratic, that is participative, and third is laissez-faire leadership style. Now let's see what about the autocratic leadership style says. In this leadership style, it is also known as an authoritarian leadership style. In this leadership style, they provide the clear expectation what to be done, when it to be done, and how it to be done. And it is focused on both the commands of the group. In the autocratic leadership, typically make choices on their ideas and judgment and rarely accept advice from the followers. Now the second one is participative leadership style. In this leadership style, it is also known as a democratic leadership style. In this style, leader offer guidance to the member of the groups and also to the participative in the group. Like the example of the participate leadership is include like a facilitators, like the social worker, arbitrators, and the group therapists. A facilitator, for example, seeks to involve everyone in the process so that the whole team form its own conclusion collectively through dialogue and the collaboration. Now see the third one, that is laissez-faire leadership style. In this leadership style, it is also known as a delegative leadership style. Laissez-faire leadership style is a direct opposite to the autocratic leadership style. Instead of a single leader making all the decisions for an organization, group, or the team, laissez-faire leader makes few decisions and allow their staff to choose appropriate workplace solution. In the laissez-faire leadership style, in which the leader are the handoffs and allow group members to make the decision. Now see what the manager grid theory says. The manager grid theory model, that is 1964, is a leadership style model developed by the Robert R. Blake and Jane Mountain. This model originally identified 5 different leadership styles based on the concern of people, based on the concern of production. In this style, managers have the low concern for both the people and the production. Now the manager grid theory, they identify 5 basic leadership styles for the practicing manager, representing various combination of the effort size to dimension as shown in the figure. Manager grid theory is based on the 2 behavior dimension. That is, first is concern of people, second one is concern for production. Now see what's the concern of people said. It is a degree or to which a leader considers the need for the team members, their interests, and the area of the personal development when deciding how to best accomplish a task. Now the second one says the concern for the production. This is degree to which a leader emphasizes concrete objectives, organization efficiency, and high productivity when deciding how best accomplish a task. As shown in the figure, the model is representing as a great concern for the production as a x-axis and the concern for the people as a y-axis. Each axis ranges from the 1 to 9. Now see the manager grid theory impoverished management. That is, first, manager with this approach are both the dimension and exercise minimum effort to get work done by the subordinates. Now second one says the middle road. This is basically compromising style wherein the leader tries to balance goal of the company and need of the people. Now the third one, that is task management. It is also called a parish style. Here leaders are most concerned about the production and have the less concern of the people. Now the fourth one, that is country club leadership style. Here is a boss is more of a big brother than authoritarian. Social relationship is more important. The aim of the achieve friendly and the harmony among the organization. And the last one is team management. The basic need of this style is to involve the commitment to work. Thank you so much, sir. Then now it's over to sir.
Thank you, Akshara. Uh, this leadership grid was given by Morton and Blake, and he has also stated that the best leadership grid, what he feels, is team leadership 999, where there is high concern for people and high concern for production both. Normally, what happens that the style, most of the models that has been framed in style, they had given some or the other universally accepted style. But at times we find it's very difficult to set a particular style in all situations. See, we come across some of the situation when Neha, are you listening to me? Actually,
yes, sir. Am I audible?
yes, yes. Neha, mainly we find some of the employees who are very much developed and they are capable of performing their tasks. As Prashant sir has given the example of uh, people being an ERP team of GAIL, they are knowledge worker. They are knowledge worker. They know what task has to be done, how it is to be accomplished, and they are self-motivated as well, self-directed, motivated. And see, in such cases, these subordinates, they need empowerment, and they don't like direction setting by their bosses. Bossism is not appreciated then. Do you feel why direction setting is still an important behavior in the era of empowerment?
So
I
it
need
is
your comment.
certainly important. Yes. Sir, thank you for the question, because I believe it is certainly important, because without a direction setting, they would not have any direction to go to. We need to give them goals, and they need to be, in fact, the smart goals. They need to be specific, measurable, achievable, and relevant, as well as time bound, so that they know where they are going. Like in the case of COVID-19 situations, we have got prime ministers and presidents of various countries, and then we have got the governors and the chief ministers managing the states. So the presidents and the prime ministers set the direction, whereas the governors and the chief ministers, they actually take a clue from the direction and then follow the best approach. So a way of empowering these people would be that they can be given the direction as just like the pilot of an airlines, where the entire crew puts in the work together to manage the passengers, let it be the stewards or the co-pilot and all, but then the direction setting has to be done by the pilot itself. And then similarly, I quoted the example of the president and the prime minister. So I believe that by giving them specific goals, they can be empowered. In fact, that would be a better way to empower them, so that they can go ahead, and in order to achieve these goals and in order to go to the particular direction they want to go to, they can be given autonomy. So it can be a mixed approach, and that is how I believe it will work best. And in case there are any excellent individuals or teams, they can be certainly, they can be given the right to set a direction for themselves, and they can be a kind of broken down sub-objectives of a major goal, and thereafter their performance can be judged on this basis, and on a quarterly basis. Again, the annual reviews and things can be carried out depending upon like how they have gone about meeting their specific objectives or goals. That's how I believe.
Thank you, Neha, for the input that you have given on this issue. Most of the leadership style, they did not take into account the situation. Later on, many researches were conducted regarding situational aspect where a particular behavior will be effective. We remember Fiedler has given his own contingency model on leadership while using least preferred worker scale, and some of the situation he has described. Robert House has also given path goal model. Number of situational theories have been developed. And one of the very prominent theory that was given by Hersey and Blanchard, it is a tri-dimensional model, and it is in fact a tri-dimensional model. And I would request the fourth participant, my fourth presenter, Ms. Monica, to give a brief on Hersey-Blanchard model of leadership.
Thank you so much, sir. Good afternoon to one and all present here. Today I am Monica of PGM second year, is here to represent the Hersey and Blanchard situational leadership theories. This theory was developed by Paul Hersey and Ken Blanchard in 1969. According to this theory, the manager should be a task-oriented as well as the relationship-oriented. Task-oriented refers to is an approach in which a person, a manager, focuses on the tasks that need to be performed in order to accomplish a specific goal, whereas the relationship-oriented is an approach in which a person builds a personal relation with the employee to motivate him. Before these theories, many theories were come, but that all the theories were about the leader. But this theories is also focused on the follower. What is the follower traits? What is the follower behavior? This theories also propose that nobody can be a leader without a follower readiness. Follower readiness refers to the extent to which people have the ability and willingness to accomplish a specific task. Ability and willingness means to say that the people follower has the particular qualification, skills and the knowledge to do a particular task, and here the willingness refers to that the follower has the wish, enthusiasm, has a desire to do the job. For this ability and willingness, there are four possible outcomes by this combinations of ability and willingness. Number one, ability plus willingness. Number two, ability plus unwillingness. Number three, inability plus willingness. And the number four, inability and unwillingness. So on the next slide, there is a graph. Here is the graph. On x-axis, it reflects the task behavior, and on the y-axis, it reflects the relationship behavior. This reflects which leadership style should be adopted in different situations. So first of all, from all possible outcomes, I would like to discuss the inability, combination of inability and the unwillingness. Inability and the unwillingness refers to that the follower is unable to do a particular job. He does not have a particular skills or a particular qualification to do that job. And unwillingness means to say that the follower refuses to do that job. Follower doesn't want to do that job or afraid to do that job. For this, the leadership style must be a highly task focused and a low relationship focus. So the leader must follow the highly directive role or telling the follower what to do, when to do and how to do without the great deal of concern of the personal relation. Now the second situation, that is the inability and the willingness, means to say that the people have the inability, means to say he does not have a particular qualification to do that job, but he is willing to do a job. He has a desire to do that job. For this, leader must have to be highly task focused and as well as the relationship focused. For this situation, leader must need to sell the follower another way of working, explaining and clarifying decision. In this situation, the leader spend time in listening and advising and helping the follower to gain the necessary skill and a task through a coaching method. In this situation, there is a moderate commitment of a follower. Now, the third possible outcome is that is the ability but unwillingness, means to say that the follower is ability to do a task, but he does not have a willingness to do a task. For this, when the follower, the leader must have to be highly relationship focused and the low task focused. When the follower is able, but he refuses to work, the leader is worrying about what to do when why the follower refuses to do that work. For this, leader try to find out what the issue or ask the follower to be participative by taking their suggestion, by involving them in decision making. Through this, follower feel motivated and showing willingness to do the job. Now the last combination is availability and willingness. In this situation, the follower is able as well as willing to do a particular task or a particular job, and he is highly motivated. Then the leader is basically leave them to all the things to the follower. He largely trusting them that they will do it themselves in an efficient manner. In this, leader must keep distant eye on things to ensure that everything is going to a plan. going through a plan. For in this situation, the follower is highly motivated to do a job. Thank you, and now it's over to you, sir.
Thank you, Monica. This Hersey-Blanchard theory of leadership does not depict a particular style for all situations. It has stated that different style will be appropriate to a particular situation. Means manager has to first gauge the situation and then decide upon that which style would be appropriate. So many in case it is not necessary that high relationship, high task style will be appropriate to all situations, especially in case of crisis management. When we talk about see the turbulent times which we are dealing with, whenever there is a army or war-like situation in army, or take example of firefighters, they don't go for high relationship or high model. Rather, the most appropriate style in such situation is high task and low relationship. Why? High task, low relationship helps a manager to take quick decision and execute the decision. If subordinates start discussing, participating, questioning the decision, then time may pass off, and we will be very difficult, find it very difficult to deal with such a critical situation. So it is always suggested that in crisis situation, leaders follow high task and low relationship, because quick action has to be taken. However, once the crisis is over, leader can shift to other situations, other styles. See, see, when we are talking about these styles, Neha, am I audible to you? Neha,
Yes, sir, yes.
see, nowadays we a lot of consultancy firms are dealing with IT firms and e-commerce firms. You must be also doing so. See, in IT firm, they are technical specialists, and naturally, if our IT managers, they are self-motivated, self-driven, and very technically very sound. In such situation, what kind of style you feel leader would be likely to be more effective when he's dealing with a highly motivated IT professional or e-commerce professional?
Thank you for the question, sir. I went through the presentation by the student, and she has very well defined the various styles of leadership that would be contingent to the situation. So looking at the situation of e-commerce specialists, because when I belong to the freelance industry currently, so I can see here, like mostly the people who are into freelancing, they are self-willing, they're competent, and a key variable in case of such professionals is high readiness. So when you have got such a situation, then there is ability, there is willingness, and there is confidence. So I think the delegating style of leadership is the most appropriate one in such situations, because there is high task orientation and also relationship building. And because these people are already so competent that you need not get work out of them forcibly. You can just delegate the task and let them do things on their own. Like in case of Google, we know, it's one of the companies like which has come up with so many softwares and many other products in the domain which are since parallel. So that kind of environment they provide to their employees in order to go about researching on their own and go and do it on their own way. That's the kind of leadership that is required when it comes to commerce specialists and IT specialists, or any team for that matter, any professional for that matter who owns these qualities: ability, willingness, and confidence. That's what I think. Thank you.
Thank you, Neha. Thank you. Now we move on to our next presenter, Ms. Sheetal Bhadola. She is the last presenter. She will be discussing on some of the contemporary issues. See, leadership, we have to deal with many emerging dimensions and many emerging issues. She will be discussing about contemporary issues on leadership. Over to you, Sheetal.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone present here. Today, I'm here with you to present a small topic on contemporary issues affecting leadership. So, there are various issues affecting leadership in the contemporary world, out of which I have chosen some of the basic issues that are managing power, developing trust, empowering employees, leading across culture, gender and leadership, becoming an effective leader. So the first point is managing power. As we know that the power of a leader comes from his follower, and leader is nothing without followers. The role of a power in leadership is very important, as leader must exert power to achieve individual, team and organizational goals. He must be able to influence their follower to achieve greater performance, their superior and peer to make important decisions, and stakeholder to ensure vitality to the organization. The power is again subdivided into various types that you can see in the figure 1. For the first one is legitimate power. The power of a leader that has as a result of her position is termed as legitimate power. The power which comes with position is termed as legitimate power. Next one is coercive power. The power of a leader to punish or to control is termed as coercive power. The third one is reward power. The power of a leader to give reward to the followers is termed reward, and benefit to the followers is termed as reward power. The fourth one is expert power. The power of a leader that comes from his expertise, skills and knowledge is termed as expert power. Whereas the last one is referent power. The power of a leader that arises because of the person's desirable characteristics, such as his admirable personality traits, is termed as referent power. So the second point here is developing trust. Developing trust is very important to become a great leader. The question, can I trust you, is always on our mind whenever we interact with the other person. Though we usually are not consciously aware about asking it but it's usually in our mind. When a team trusts one as a leader, it increases commitment to the team goals, communication within the team improves, free flow of ideas take place, thereby increasing the creativity and productivity within the team, which leads to a better result in future. Perhaps most important, in the hand of a trusted leader, employees are more comfortable with change and more willing to embrace a new vision. If in case team will not trust the leader will not get the follower best efforts and find themselves unable to inspire, influence and create a better result. Here we can even take the example of the current situation. As we have seen, the PM Modi have made he have taken out an initiative of PM Cares Fund. There we all are contributing, but it's because of the reason, because we are trusting him that he will be using this money for us. So this point represent the same thing. So this situation, in this critical situation, we have taken this decision so that we all can put together our effort in order to get out of this situation. So the next point is empowering employees. The next point is empowering employees. So why should we empower employees? Leaders who do not believe in the idea of empowerment can become isolated from their teams, and that can diminish the long-term success of the organization. Empowerment is a means to include the team in decision making, to give them a participatory role which capitalize on their own expertise and judgment, and that increase the sense of both individual worth and commitment to the organization. It is very helpful in creating belongingness within the organization, which help in the long run effectivity. Why to empower? So the question, why to empower employees? The answer is very clear. No one can lead an organization to success on their own. It's the collective excellence of many that builds success. So the next point is leading across culture. Cross-cultural leadership has developed as a way to understand leaders who make newly globalized market. As we can take here the example of nowadays, we can take the example of MNCs and companies that are working internationally. They are working with various cultures and various cultures who have different traditions and beliefs. Organization require leaders who can because of this, organization requires leader who can adjust to different environment quickly and work with partners and employees of other cultures. It cannot be assumed that a manager who is successful in one country will be successful in the other. So there are various skills which one should have in order to have a cross culture, in order to handle a cross culture, like the problem of cross culture within today's time is. So these skills are openness, cultural adaptability, emotional strength, perceptiveness, and cultural understanding. So the fifth point here is gender and leadership. So here the question arises, does gender really make a difference in the leadership? Do it means that man and woman have different leadership styles? There is no clear answer for this, but it has been found that women use a more relationship oriented style of leadership, that is, in general, they are more comfortable, participative, and empowering than a man who tend towards a command and control autocratic leadership style. Here we can take example some of all the great leaders, that is Indira Gandhi, who was the first lady prime minister of India. She have done a best job during her leadership during the war of Bangladesh liberation during the Bangladesh liberation war. The second example we can take of Sushma Swaraj, our former external affairs minister. She was called Indian best loved politicians by the US daily Wall Street Journal. She have done great in public affairs, for which she was even awarded with Padma Vibhushan, Indian's second largest civilian award. So the last point is becoming an effective leader. How my friend Nikita have even told before, a team is only as good as the leader, and the leader is only as good as the team. It is not so much about who is dependent on the other to create the interpersonal dynamics that result in the leadership effectiveness. It is about how interdependently they work together to create the interpersonal dynamics. Effective leadership brings together diverse people and help them to find common purpose and work towards achieve purposeful common goals. Effective leadership inspire and empower people to realize their fullest potential and harness their potential to achieve common goals. So we can take here again the example of PM Modi, like how he is empowering each and everyone in order to strengthen our nation so that we can move forward. And since we are a developing country, he is working with all of us and empowering all of us so that we can become a developed nation in future. So effective leadership bring together diverse people and help them to find common purpose and work towards a purposeful common goal. Thank you, and now it's over to sir.
Thank you, Sheetal. Thank you very much. The crisis situation which we are going through, whole world is passing, had led a lot of uncertainties in our life. People are worried about the future. Many organizations too are worried about their own futures. These uncertainties are very stressful, and had led to many query for an individual, and thought-provoking questions are being raised. Sir Prashant sir, if you could hear me, during this lockdown and crisis.
Yes.
Prior to this lockdown and crisis, there were many organizations which were in profitable position, making good profit. For such an organization, it is possible. In case of such organization to carry their fixed costs throughout this lockdown period. But there are many organizations which were financially very much stressed earlier, and this lockdown has worsened their situation. My question is how the leaders of such an organization deal with especially those employees who are based at the base of pyramid, at the very base of the organization, and they expect a considerable degree of emotional support and economic support. How to deal with such a situation, sir?
Yes, Dr. Roy, you have very rightly said, that this is what we started with also, that this is the litmus test, for all the leaders, almost all the leaders. I understand, in fact, we all understand that leaders are actually, on one side, they are, struggling with their business revenues. The revenues have come down. The resources are at the constraint now. And on the other side, they have also to manage their teams. They have to ensure that the team morale and the team members, they are, kept high. Morale is high, motivation level is also high. That doesn't goes down. So it's a very, very, catch-22 type of situation which is faced by the leaders. But yeah, I know what, and different leaders are responding in different ways. As I gave you examples in the beginning itself, like we have examples of Asian Paints, we have example of Ola also. Okay, so I think the first thing what leaders have to do is now is that they have to accept the situation. They have to accept the the present situation, that they are not so good, and all the businesses are going through a rough time. Okay, big or small, everybody, their business plans, their strategic plans, everything has gone for a toss. They had never, we have done so much of scenario planning exercise in our organizations, but to be honest, many of the organizations had never thought of this situation, in fact. And also, and they are, they are somehow handling it also. They are trying to face the situation. So the leaders now have to realize that this is new way of working. They have to accept the situation. We say that once we accept the situation, then we are at peace of mind, and then we are then we know we can think in a better way how to deal with the situation. Okay, they have to take this as the new normal. Okay, whatever, the workers are not coming, most of the office staff is not coming to the office, they're working from home. It has to be accepted. It is going to stay for a long time. They don't have to react very sharply to all this. They should not over engage. They should not even over manage, or in other words, they should not micromanage. Okay, so the first thing is that they have to accept the situation. They have to realize that this is the new way of working, and everybody has to adapt to this new way of working. Okay, what Sheetal was also mentioning, trust. Trust is the key word in these situations. The leader should have trust in its employees, and the employees should have trust in their leaders. This is the time when trust is being tested. Okay, so leaders, they have to realize that this time will also pass. This will not going to stay for long. Okay, and any reactions in form of laying off, retrenchment, pay cuts is not desired as of now. We have to sail through somehow. All the business leaders, big or small, as you said, that those smaller organizations, yeah, definitely they're having the revenue crunch, but then they have to hold on with these types of situations, because any form of layoffs or retrenchment will not be I'll say appreciated by the employees, nor by anybody. In fact, these are the times when employees are looking up to their managers and leaders with a lot of hopes, and all these trust building exercises have to take place now. Leaders can utilize these time to rather skill to make their employees go through those skill enhancement programs or good trainings, which are going to keep them engaged in a better way. We all know that every dark cloud has a silver lining, and if few doors are closing, then few doors are opening also. Okay, if the office, the real estate, another thing, other industries, they are coming down, but then we are also having those online industry, those virtual business industry is going up. Okay, so possibly we have to have that site into mind, and we'll have to just hold on for some more time, and then definitely this trust will pay off. And no cutoffs, no retrenchments, no, I think layoff should take place. This is what I think. Dr. Roy.
Thank you, sir. Now a quick question to Neha. Neha, see, lockdown. Today I was just watching TV and gone through a statement of our Minister of Environment, Prakash Javadekar, sir, that it's nothing like a political, but this is how the leadership has to face. That once the government was earlier, opposition was asking to extend lockdown, and now when the lockdown is being extended, they are asking question why these lockdowns are being extended. At the same time, see, government is also facing a problem if lockdown is extended, suppose if the lockdown is extended, there is possibility because of no or very little economic activity, many people may starve to death. And if lockdown is not extended, then there is all danger that this coronavirus may spread fast. So what actions in such situation is likely to be taken?
Thank you for the question again, sir. I believe, this is a kind of catch-22 situation which the world is facing, and we are not an exclusion to the same. So like same for India. So earlier our government was looking for lockdown measures so that they could prepare up themselves medically and for the medical preparedness phase and to support the lives that would be impacted by these lockdown measures. They have come up with various things and various measures, like they even started transportation and commutation for migrant workers. But then there is no specific answer, or I think nobody on earth right now has got a specific answer to this particular dilemma. But it's still like as Mr. Prashant sir mentioned, that every cloud has a silver lining, and we need to look at the positives as well. So while there were some of the negatives, there would be loss of lives. So when it comes to economic aspects, then yes, there would be economic derailment. But when it comes to life, I think human life or human resources are of utmost importance than any other resources, let it be financial. But then again, these human resources and lives depend on the fiscal aspects of the economy. So we need to look at the other measures, like, how we can actually come up with various measures to fight competition that nowadays many countries like Japan and US, they are pretty much not happy with China. So also they're planning to shift businesses to countries like India. So India is emerging as one of the top competitors of China. So that ways, I think we can make use of the situation so that we can fight the economic derailment, as well as we can keep extending the lockdown measures so that we can save on lives. And as the government has rightly allocated the various COVID-19 regions to specific zones like the green zone, red zone, or orange zone, we can see that, in what all zones we can carry out the economic activities and what all businesses that can be successfully run, like the e-commerce businesses where rightfully many measures can be taken without actually posing a risk, a direct risk to the lives of individuals. So that's how we need to look at the situation. And like one of the Chinese medical personnel mentioned that, we like Indians are not, they don't have high immunity, but they're spiritually immune. So I think we need to build up on this strength of ours. We need to be spiritually immune. We need to keep our hopes pinned up high. And we need to fight this situation, look at the pros and cons, look at how we can best emerge out as a winner in this particular situation. And we can look at international cooperation that was rightly started by our Prime Minister when he approached the G20 countries. He was one of the persons who took the initiative for this particular thing and for a joint vaccine making venture. So I think there are so many things, there's so many factors that need to be considered. And in fact, even for the Manrega schemes, the government has come up, like the migrant workers who are returning to their particular states, so that they don't remain out of employment, so they can be incorporated in the current Manrega schemes of their specific state level like construction works that are being taken, that are being done. So I think there is no one shoe size that fits all, and the Prime Minister would need to give more autonomy to the specific chief ministers, and also keep a tab on the entire situation, because we being a big country, we can leverage on our strengths, and we can also, this also poses a big threat to the economy. So it has to be a balancing act. I think that's how we can emerge out as a winner. Thank you.
Thank you, Neha, for giving a very insightful answer to the query which have been raised. Now, with this, we conclude this webinar. I will just narrate some of the major key takeaways of this, that it is not very easy to become a leader. And once if you become leader, it is very tough to hold on to those positions. And leadership always requires to display an active, effective behavior in different situations. In turbulent times, leadership actions are always set to evaluations. And And one thing more important, in order to be a good leader, one is also required to be a good team player. With this, I from core of my heart thank my expert panelists. I thank my Honorable President Dr. D.K. Modi for being with us during this webinar. I thank all dignitaries, all participants, all students, teachers, faculty members for being part of this webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.